Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013 bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Monday, January 30th, 2017. We're back after the nice little weekend we had. Yesterday was a pretty fun slate for me. I don't play too much on the weekends. I narrow it down. The prize pools are smaller. Try to spend some time with the family, the wife, everything. But it was fun for me. I had a lot of Anthony Davis, and he finally did some justice to some of those GPP believers who've been playing him week to week. I have been off of him for a while, and I don't know why. I guess because the slate, he was the stud I wanted, and he did well for me, so I was happy about that. We only have a 5-game slate today. There is technically 6 games, but that game is obviously it is a makeup game for that game that was canceled due to the weather. I think it was a leak or something like that. I'm not sure last time, but yeah. So we have 6, but we're gonna talk about 5 real quick. With that early game, if you want to go with, obviously Embiid and Cousins are the 2 marquee guys. So definitely, if there's a way you could watch it, it'd be fun. I don't think it's on TV. I don't think it's on national TV. But if you could find a way to watch it, if you have the NBA package or whatever system you have to find those games, I do think it would be a pretty good game to watch to see Boogie and Cousins go at. Boogie and Embiid, assuming Embiid plays, go at it. Although I know Embiid is still questionable, so he might not even play. But anyway, we're going to talk about this main slate, the 5-game main slate. We got some injury news. Let me see. Amir Johnson is, I believe, probable. Al Horford is still questionable, and Bradley is expected to be out, but you're still going to want to pay attention closer to lock. We don't know for sure. And in Orlando at Minnesota, Evan Fournier is questionable. That's obviously very important. He's a key player for the Magic, so you want to see if he plays. Meeks is still out for Cleveland and Dallas. Kevin Love did not travel with the team after getting hurt yesterday. He's out. Bogut is doubtful yet again. D-Will, Barea are out. And then finally in the Memphis and Phoenix game, I believe, Gordon's questionable? So we got some stuff we got to pay attention to here. That's the bottom line. We're going to start off, obviously, now we do go I do like that position-by-position format, so we're going to stick with that. Starting off with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas' 10K on FanDuel is 9,400 on DraftKings. They're home against home against Detroit. Apologize about that. This is really going to depend on Avery Bradley. If Avery Bradley plays, I believe he's a game-time decision, so we don't know for sure. If Avery Bradley plays, then I think that price may be too high for Isaiah Thomas. I could be wrong. However, if Bradley's out, I think that price definitely becomes more justified. Just when you consider the fact that his usage is just completely crazy, not to mention Isaiah Thomas has been completely hot, and he's phenomenal. The game is also on TNT. You know Thomas is going to want to step up on that spotlight. He recently said that he believed he was the best player in the league. So if you think you're the best player in the league, then when it's time for you to be on TV in front of everybody, I would imagine you would try your best to prove that. But we don't know for sure, and Detroit is ranked 21st DVP against point guards. What my concern is, I do have some concern. My main concern here is I'm concerned they might put KCP on him. If KCP plays, which I think he will, he seems to be back after that shoulder injury. KCP is a very good defender, and we've seen him shut down some good people. So he's got to get the size on Isaiah Thomas. I think he's quick enough to keep up somewhat, and I'm a little concerned now. If he has Reggie, see, that's the thing. If Bradley was playing, they'd have to stick KCP on Bradley. So maybe if Bradley plays, it's better for Isaiah Thomas. I know I'm just thinking about it now. If you think about it, KCP has to cover Bradley if Bradley plays. If Bradley doesn't play, KCP is going to cover Isaiah Thomas, right? So that can make things a little tough. But he's still in play, still definitely in play on a 5-game slate. Dragic is the next guy I wanted to talk about. He's 7,800 on FanDuel, 76 on DraftKings, and he's got a great matchup against Brooklyn at home. Dragic's usage is always high, obviously, and Brooklyn is terrible not only against point guards, but they're terrible against pretty much every position. So the matchup is there. Whiteside's been terrible, which helps Dragic because they need him to score more, him and Waiters, obviously. And let's see, the last time they just played a couple days ago. 42.3 FanDuel points, 44.8 DK points, and that was in Brooklyn. That was just a few days ago. So Dragic has shown that he can play well against a team like this. Moving on, we got a couple negatives, actually. Dion Waiters has been taking a lot of shots, which means he's been taking on more usage. So that kind of works against Dragic a little bit, but it seems like Dragic's been starting to kind of pull that back and, take the reins back a little bit. So I'm not too worried about that. Tyler Johnson is probable. Now, that can take away some of his usage in minutes because he's been playing so many minutes. If Tyler Johnson is healthy enough to play, which he's probable, so I'm assuming, and the fact that it's an upper body injury, if it's a lower body injury, then they have to be careful. They might have to monitor minutes, etc. If it's upper body, they don't necessarily have to. They can keep you out there. So I think Johnson will eat into some of that usage and some of the minutes for both Dragic and Waiters. But still, I think Dragic at his price, I don't think he's going to hurt you with that usage. He's still put up his, typical 30, 35, 40-point games. So I still like Dragic here. Of course, the biggest negative drawback, in my opinion, is the blowout factor. Last time these guys played in Brooklyn, Miami only won 109-106. However, they are 9-point favorites, so you do have the possibility of a blowout. So that would stink. But anyway, Mike Conley, 7,500 on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings. I definitely like his price a lot better on DraftKings, but he's got a great matchup against Phoenix. He's in a pace-up spot. They're in Phoenix, so you figure the games should be played at a little bit higher pace. Normally, the home team's pace is where people typically play. So I do think that he's in a pretty good spot here. Number one, Michael Conley is good at basketball. I know he hasn't been showing the upside that he should be, and as much as he makes per year or whatever, he should be putting up monster stuff. I get it. He's good at basketball, and sometimes I think people forget that, but he still is, and he's got a phenomenal matchup against Eric Bledsoe. Yeah, Eric Bledsoe's a beast, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's a bad player, but the entire Phoenix Suns team is a turnover-prone team, and they're not a good defensive team at all, and Bledsoe classifies in that same mix. He's not a good defender. Bledsoe is beatable. On the offensive end, yeah, Bledsoe's phenomenal, but on the defensive end, he is certainly beatable. So I do like Conley here in a pace-up spot. The negative drawback here is that he's been playing kind of mediocre lately, but we do know he has that upside in him. So it's a matter of catching that upside, similar to Anthony Davis, right? Yeah, he's getting hurt. You got to play that game. Is he going to be hurt? Is he going to play? But if he plays a full game, a full amount of minutes, he has that 70, 80, 90-point upside. So I definitely think Conley's in play. Reggie Jackson's interesting to me. 6,600 on FanDuel, 63 on DraftKings. He's at Boston. Great matchup versus Isaiah. So let me just explain to you why. I know I say it a bunch again, but just in case maybe somebody didn't hear me or didn't understand. Why do I like to target guys against Isaiah Thomas? It's pretty simple. Reggie Jackson is not considered to be a huge guard, right? I mean, he's not a small guy, but he's not considered to be a huge guard, right? He's 6'3". Isaiah Thomas is 5'9". 5'9". Reggie Jackson, who I think a lot of people consider to be a small guard, still has a significant height advantage over a guy like Isaiah. Now, on top of that, Reggie is still small enough to where he's still quick enough to keep up with Isaiah. So I still think Isaiah is a good play. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I think Reggie is also a good play. And if you want to get exposure to that game, this is a good way to go, I think. Now, 6,600 on FanDuel. You guys know I don't like that price, but I've been trying to get over that. I just joke around with that, obviously. But 63 on DraftKings is even more appealing. The fact that he's under 7K in general is nice. And he's in a pace-up spot. Boston's ranked 17th in pace compared to Detroit's 28th ranked in pace. So it might not be a huge bump. It's not like they're playing Brooklyn here, but they still get a good bump. And Boston is obviously home, which means you would hope they would play at their pace. So I definitely think Reggie's in play here. Downside is he hasn't really shown the upside lately. Same thing as Conley. He has not shown upside. But we know he is capable of it. So we'll see we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Oh, real quick, going back to Isaiah Thomas, I just remembered we were talking about this game. Horford is questionable, so keep that in mind. If Horford's out, that's even more usage for Isaiah. I think his usage affects Crowder more, and we'll talk about that later. But still, if Horford's out, which we don't know, he's got a groin injury, Isaiah could still pick up yet another usage bump. So Kyrie Irving, I know I skipped over him. I'm going to go back to Kyrie real quick. Kyrie is 86 on FanDuel, 82 on DraftKings. They're playing at Dallas, so it's a pace-down spot, and both teams are playing on the back end of a back-to-back. Love is out. Love is not, from what I understand, didn't travel to Dallas with the team. So with Love out, we already know we're going to see a big usage bump to LeBron and Kyrie both. So that would automatically put Kyrie in play, right? However, it is a pace-down spot, and you do have to still concern about the blowout here. Dallas is not a very good team. Yeah, they played San Antonio tough last night. I think they gave it everything they had. And they might have to rest Dirk today, who had a pretty good game yesterday. So you do have some concerns there. However, Kyrie is certainly, if you want to put him in cash, I'm not going to be mad at you. I understand. I just think that there's enough options on the slate today that I don't have to go overboard with him. I don't think he's in a must-play situation or anything like that. But I do think he's certainly a good play, and if you want to go there, I don't blame you. Moving on here, we're going to move on to the shooting guard position. We've got Devin Booker at 6,800 on FanDuel, 7K on DraftKings, home against Memphis. He's been taking a massive amount of shots, just a massive amount of shots, which is a good thing for DFS players. So if he's going to keep taking those shots, I mean, he's certainly in play. His DraftKings price is 7K is a little steep in my opinion for a guy like Booker, especially in a pace-down matchup. But Memphis is 19th in DVP, so they're not great. They're not the worst, but they're not great. And again, this game I believe is also going to be on TNT. I think it's the later game on TNT. So national spotlight. Some of these guys, especially these younger guys, want to step it up and prove that they belong in this league and that they belong in those categories with those other superstars. This is your chance to do it. So I think Booker's in play. I'm not crazy about him because of his price and because of the I'm not crazy about him because of his price and because of the pace down spot. But he's still in play. You still got to consider him. Dion Waiters is priced the same on DK at 7K. However, on FanDuel, he's only 6,300, so you're getting a bit of a deal. Against Brooklyn, a great matchup. He's been chucking. And it's a positive for DFS players, right? He's just been chucking. He's just been throwing the ball up. So that puts him in play, obviously. He's definitely stepped up lately. I think everybody's kind of been waiting, and once Winslow went out, he said, hey, man, I'm the young guy that's going to step in and take over. So he's been doing well. It's a pace-up spot again. We talked about that. He's been red hot. He's against a horrible defense. Negatives, there is a blowout factor, of course. And also, Tyler Johnson returning could also not only cut into Dragic, it could cut into Waiters a little bit. I think with Tyler Johnson coming back, the person it affects the most is probably Wayne Ellington. I don't know for sure because I would imagine the way that Waiters is playing, you would want him on the court, right? So I would imagine putting Waiters maybe at the 3, putting Johnson at the 2, and then putting Dragic at the 1. I don't know if they're going to do that. I'm just saying that if I was the coach, that may be the direction I was heading in. But you don't know these coaches. They know the teams better than I do. They know the habits and how teams play. Some guys can't play off the bench. Some guys can't play with certain guys. So we'll let him decide and see what they do. But I definitely think that Waiters is certainly a play. On a 5-game slate, you don't have too many options. There's not too much to choose from. It's not like these, last week when we had 10 games on a Friday or whatever. This is different. You got 5 games. So even if a guy, you may not love him, there may not be any other options. You may have to play him. So you can't really turn guys away, and I think Waiters is okay. He may be chalky. He may be. But not all chalk is bad chalk. There's good chalk, there's bad chalk. Not all chalk. Sometimes there's chalk that you have to have or you won't win, right? Sometimes Harden is 50% owned or Westbrook is 50% owned, but if you don't have him, you're not winning that night. So not always, but you got to try to differentiate bad chalk, good chalk. And next we're going to talk about Zach LaVine. He's 6,400 on FanDuel, 67 on DraftKings. He's got a matchup against Orlando, who has not been playing very well defensively lately. Fournier is questionable. So if Fournier is out or limited, I like LaVine a lot more here. Fournier is a decent defender, and I think he can keep up with LaVine. He could, help shut him down a little bit. So I think that if Fournier is out, I definitely like LaVine. Even if he's limited, I like LaVine. But if he's playing, I still like LaVine just because the slate options are so small. But I'm not crazy about LaVine at that point. He has been playing mega minutes. He's been playing better lately. Tibbs is going to run him out there regardless. He's going to play close to 40 minutes a game every time. All of his starters pretty much. And let me see. And also, of course, he gets a slight pace-up spot here against Orlando, who actually, even the beginning of the season, they've been slow. They've actually been pretty quick lately. Minnesota is one of the slower-paced teams in the league. A lot of people don't realize that. But Orlando, who started off as one of the slower-paced teams, is now playing at a much faster pace. So I definitely think LaVine's in play. KCP, 5,400 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DraftKings. Matchup at Boston. Again, pace up. Good matchup, but only if Bradley is out. If Bradley's playing, KCP, I don't really have too much interest in KCP if Bradley's playing. Just because Bradley's a decent defender, Bradley's going to be on him. So I think KCP is definitely in play if Bradley is out. Value plays at shooting guard. Seth Curry, 4,300 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DraftKings. He's been playing monster minutes. There is potential for blowout. But Dallas is so thin right now. Barea and D. Will are both out. They're playing guys. I mean, they had even Pierre Jackson got hurt. They tried to give him a run, tried to start him. He got hurt. So they're in a tough spot. They have to play these guys. Wes Matthews, Barnes, they have to. So even though the matchup may not seem so great, even though the player might not attract you so much, a guy like Seth Curry, especially on FanDuel where he's only 4,300, he's going to get those minutes, man. So it's hard to fade a guy like that. Even in a blowout spot, who else are they going to play? They almost have no choice but to play these guys anyway, even if they're getting embarrassed out there. So I definitely think Seth Curry is an interesting value. Keep in mind they are home against Cleveland, and it is the back end of the back-to-back. and he played monster minutes yesterday. So just keep that in mind. Wes Matthews, same thing for him. He's 5,400 on FanDuel, 45 on DraftKings. Same situation. On DraftKings, he's small forward eligible and shooting guard eligible, so you have some options. On FanDuel, obviously, he's only a shooting guard. But he played well. He did good for me yesterday. I had a lot of exposure to him in this game back. Figured he was rested. So basically, if I'm going to do this, right, if I'm going to take one value guy from the Dallas game, on FanDuel, it's got to be Curry, right? 4,300. I'm not, it's a lot better than 53 on DK. And the same thing reversed for Wes Matthews. On 54 on FanDuel might be too much, but 45 on DK sounds like a pretty good deal. So keep that in mind. Tony Allen's an interesting value play, 4,500 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings. He's got a matchup with Phoenix, the pace-up spot. Not exactly afraid of Devin Booker defense. Defensively, his name doesn't exactly strike your bones or give you chills or anything like that. So I'm cool with Tony Allen if you want to go there because he's cheap. Wayne Ellington, I think, is a time to, if Tyler Johnson does play, which again he's probably, so I'm expecting him to play. If Tyler Johnson does play, then I think Wayne Ellington kind of just gets pushed to the side. Because the reason Ellington's been a phenomenal play lately has been because he's been getting monster minutes. They've had no choice but to play him. But if Tyler Johnson comes back, I wouldn't be surprised, like I said earlier, to see them slide Dion Waiters into the 3 spot and just kind of bump Ellington off. Because Ellington he does okay, but he doesn't produce all that much. He's not as good as Johnson. He's not as good as Dragic. He's not as good as Waiters. He's not as good as Whiteside or James Johnson, despite the fact that Whiteside's been terrible and James Johnson has been struggling too. Although James Johnson did have a pretty good game. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday maybe. Jaylen Brown is the last guy I'm going to talk about at shooting guard. He's 3,900 on FanDuel, 36 on DK. Now, he's against Detroit. If Bradley is out, and more importantly, if Horford is out, you got to like Jaylen Brown here. He's dirt cheap on both sides, especially on DraftKings. And if Bradley is out, then Jaylen Brown will probably start at the 2. Now, think of it this way. If Bradley's out and if Bradley's out, he'll start at the 2. That's okay. That's one phase. The second phase is he going to get an opportunity to get you points? And I think I think you have a better chance of him having a bigger game if Horford is out because that usage is going to get split up. And we've seen Brown kind of step it up with Horford out recently. So if Horford plays, don't want Jaylen Brown. If Bradley plays, I definitely don't want Jaylen Brown. But again, if Jaylen Brown is going to play the 2, I think they'll move KCP over to Isaiah Thomas, and they might try to put Reggie Jackson on Jaylen if they can. I don't know for sure that they're going to do that. I'm just assuming because I know you got to stop IT2. You're playing Boston; those guys are out. You have got to stop IT2. He has got to become a priority. So I think they're going to put KCP on. That's it for shooting guard. Small forward's pretty nasty today. Now, shooting guard isn't the best, but compared to small forward, I love shooting guard way more than I like small forward. Small forward is gross today, man. I can't even exaggerate that enough. Obviously, look, the obvious play is LeBron James, 10-5 on FanDuel, 10K on DK. He's at Dallas, back-to-back. He may sit. Do I think he's going to sit with Love out? No. Normally, yes. I don't see why he wouldn't sit. But in this situation, I know Lou's been talking about resting his guys and looking for opportunities, and this might seem like a good opportunity, but they have not been playing well. They played well yesterday. They destroyed Westbrook in Oklahoma City. But in general, they have not been playing well, so I don't know if LeBron is going to want to take the day off, especially after watching what Dallas just did, or almost did, to San Antonio. So I don't know for sure, but if LeBron does play, he's way too expensive for me to play on a large slate. On a large slate, I just won't play him. I don't play LeBron much. I really don't. And it's not because I don't think he's good. I think he's the best player in the league. I'm not hating on LeBron. I love LeBron. My brother-in-law is a big Cleveland guy. I got all the love for LeBron. Don't get me wrong. My problem with LeBron is he doesn't really show you that 70, 80-point upside much, right? And if I'm paying double digits for a guy, I want that upside. That's what I'm paying for. I'm not paying for the 50 points because I feel like on a large slate, I could find somebody else to give me that 50 points who's cheaper and who will surpass their salary, allowing me to pay up somewhere else. In this situation, we have such a small slate that you literally might have to buy your points. And at small forward, the position is so disgusting that there is nobody that I see that can really hit his floor other than maybe Wiggins. So outside of Wiggins, who can even hit his floor? You're going to get outscored by 30 or 40 points if you don't play LeBron in this situation, right? So you don't have to play him. You do what you want to do. Unless something else opens up, I'm having a hard time not playing him just because the position is so gross. And you'll see what I mean when we continue. Obviously, Love is out, so that helps. And, of course, LeBron, let's be honest, LeBron is the GOAT, right? He's the GOAT. He's the true GOAT of the NBA right now, right? Yeah, we joke around about Jokic. He's great. all these guys are phenomenal, but LeBron is LeBron, right? At least for now. Andrew Wiggins is the only other guy I really like a lot. He's 73 on FanDuel, 72 on DraftKings. Another matchup for Orlando. Not worried about that. DVP-wise, definitely not worried about Orlando. It's a pace-up spot for him. Pretty good matchup. And he plays minutes. He plays minutes. And, of course, it's an ugly, ugly position today. Ugly, ugly position. You can't be too picky today. You really can't. And the only drawback, I don't like seeing Wiggins at this price. Now, I would fade Wiggins if we had other options, but today there's just not enough options. But I prefer paying over $7K for Wiggins. To me, it's just kind of ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I know he plays the minutes and all that, and he does get the usage with Cat and all that. But if you really look at his game logs, he's pretty much on average 35 fantasy points, right? That's probably his average, right? So paying anything over 7K for him just seems a little ridiculous. But again, on this slate, you can't be too picky. Now, another guy I like, if Horford is out, only if Horford is out, is Jay Crowder. We have seen with Horford out, Jay Crowder has definitely stepped it up. He's 63 on FanDuel, he's 61 on DK, and of course he's home against Detroit. If Horford is in, I don't want Crowder because his upside is so limited. He honestly, in this slate particularly, he's still in play even if Horford plays, but that's just because the slate is so nasty and the position is so nasty. So he's in play regardless. But if Horford is out, I really like Jay Crowder a lot. It's an ugly position. That's the bottom line. Let me see. Vince Carter as a punt option is interesting. He's 3,500 on FanDuel and he's 3,600 on DraftKings. He's been playing monster minutes lately. He's got a pace-up spot against Phoenix, a bad defensive team. He has been playing a lot of minutes. Check the logs. Carter's been logging about 30. So if he's going to get 30, even though his production hasn't been there, in a pace-up spot, he's going to get more opportunities. So he's certainly in play as a punt option if you want to go that route at the small forward position. He's dirt cheap. Now look, are there some drawbacks to Carter? Yeah, he's old. He hasn't really produced. He's got limited upside. But again, he's got a good matchup against a bad defensive team. He's in a pace-up spot. He should get more opportunities. So I think he's worth a shot. He's worth consideration. We'll say that, right? Marcus Morris, 5,300 on FanDuel, 54 on DK at Boston. Pace-up spot, tougher matchup against Crowder. But he does get minutes. So if you're looking for a guy with minutes, maybe in cash because his minutes are secure, I don't see why not. But I prefer playing Marcus Morris when guys are out. When guys are in, his priority level on the offense kind of drops a little bit, like as far as his usage goes. So not too big on. Moving on to power forward, I like Zebo a lot today. 6,400 on FanDuel, 58 on DraftKings. JaMychal Green is questionable. So if JaMychal Green doesn't play, Zebo is going to get monster minutes. And even if JaMychal Green plays, Zebo is still in a pace-up spot. He comes off the bench, but he gets starters minutes, so that doesn't really matter. He's in a monster spot against Phoenix. Phoenix is horrible against bigs in general, especially at the power forward position. So if you take Chandler, who's one of their better rim protectors, and you put him on Gasol, if Zebo's in the game with Gasol, who covers Zebo? Marquise Chris? Is that his name? Or Jared Dudley? So I do think Zebo is in a phenomenal spot, especially on DraftKings where he's under 6K. 64 is a little expensive in my opinion for him. But again, on this slate, you can't be too picky. Sometimes you got to just go with it and buy your points. Literally buy your points. James Johnson is 6K on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. Pace-up spot, great spot against Brooklyn once again, needless to say. Now, negative drawbacks, he comes off the bench, and his upside hasn't really been there lately. But we know he's capable of giving you that consistency. Again, I prefer his price on DraftKings. I prefer anything that, obviously if somebody's cheaper anywhere, I'm going to prefer that price. I don't even have to say that, I guess. But I think Johnson's okay. I'm not in love with him, but I think he's okay. He's just not the first option I would want to go. Now, I think I don't know if Booker's healthy or not. And so if James Johnson plays some minutes at the 4, if Booker is not healthy, that could be, an advantage for James Johnson. We don't know for sure, but he's certainly in play. I'm giving you his name because I think he's in play. Tobias Harris, 5,900 on FanDuel, 56 on DK. I think Tobias is all right. He comes off the bench, so we've seen that usage back. And I think you can go with either him or Lure. You can kind of take your chances. I prefer Lure today, believe it or not, because obviously he's cheaper. But Tobias Harris certainly in a decent spot. He's 56 on DK. I like that price better than the 59 on FanDuel. He's at Boston in a pace-up spot. Boston struggles against power forwards, and they're not a very good rebounding team in general. So I do like Tobias. Gorgie Dieng, I can never say his name right. 5,800 on FanDuel, 57 on DraftKings. He's home against Orlando. He's going to have Ibaka on him, so I'm not crazy about him. I wanted to mention him because I figured that his name is there and he might be somebody people are interested in. I personally, I'm not too interested in him because he's going to have a matchup with Ibaka, who is a little even though Ibaka hasn't been playing well, he's still very physical. He's still a veteran of the game, so I don't think I want to attack Orlando at the power forward spot. Dirk is interesting. I don't think he's going to play. I just mentioned his name. If he plays, I guess he's okay with Love out, but I'm not too interested. He might have to play center, too, with Bogut out if he does play, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dirk rest here. Ibaka is 57 on FanDuel, 6,000 on DraftKings at Minnesota. It's a pace down spot. He's been struggling lately, so I think that's going to drive his ownership low. The only real positive here is his ownership and the fact that Gorgie Deng is not a good defender. He's a presence down low, but he's not a good defender. Ibaka can hit some threes. I don't think Deng gets out there in time to cover those threes. So I think I would prefer Ibaka over Deng, certainly. They're like the same price on no, they're not the same price. The price is $100 off on FanDuel. I thought they were the same price. But anyway, I prefer Ibaka over Deng. I think Ibaka's in play. GPP's only because he's been struggling lately. You don't want to put a guy that's been struggling lately in cash and hope that he's going to just all of a sudden snap that streak. Because if he doesn't, you just screwed yourself. So he's in play, though. John Lore, 4,400. I think his cash game playable. He's so cheap across both sites. Boston, again, they struggle against power forwards, and they're not a good rebounding team, pace-up spot. So I definitely like Lure a lot at 4,400. And, of course, Channing Frye. Love is going to be out. Every time we've seen Love out, which has been a decent amount as of late, Channing Frye comes in and steps it up. Now, I will say one thing. The only way that I'm locking Frye in there, obviously his price is incredible. I don't have to tell you. The only way I'm locking Frye in there is if LeBron plays. And the reason is because LeBron is the assist leader on that team. And if you look at Frye's points, most of them come off of assists. And specifically assists from LeBron James. So LeBron is going to be needed to create shots for Frye. Kyrie's not going to do that. LeBron can. So if LeBron plays, yeah, give me some Frye. Give me Frye all day. If LeBron is out, I want nothing to do with Frye. I'll be fading Frye completely. So that's just, something to consider. Moving on to the last position of the day, we got center. Karl-Anthony Towns is in a monster spot. And on DraftKings, you have certainly had the advantage of playing a guy like him at power forward. Because I think that center is deep enough today that you can really find a few guys to play here. It's not incredibly deep, but on a 5-game slate compared to the other positions, point guard and center, in my opinions, are the deepest. So we'll start off with Cat. He's 10-9 on FanDuel, 10-8 on DraftKings. He's against Orlando. Orlando's horrible against centers. Karl-Anthony Towns should go nuts here. He should go. He's probably my favorite play today. Some people are going to say he's too expensive. I get it. He's in a phenomenal matchup. I don't know if we have a total out for the game. There's a lot of games we're still waiting on totals for injury purposes, but I love Cat today. It's just my personally, I like Cat. I'll be playing a lot of Cat today, especially on DraftKings, where I can put Cat at maybe power forward and pick somebody else at center, because I do think there's a lot of centers in play. Marc Gasol, 9K on FanDuel, 78 on DraftKings. 9K on FanDuel, that's way too much for me at that point. I'd rather just pay up for Cat. And on DraftKings, he could be somebody at 7,800. Maybe you could play with Cat. He's at Phoenix. He should get a lot of opportunities for rebounds. Phoenix is not a very good rebounding team in general. I don't think Chandler cannot keep up with this. If Gasol's going to be hitting those threes, Chandler ain't getting out there. I watched Chandler for years. I'm a Knicks fan. I watched him for years on the Knicks. He's cool. I like him. He's a rim protector. I get it. All that. He hustles. He's a great guy. He does not cover mobile centers well at all. So I think Gasol's in a phenomenal spot. Yet again, a pace-up spot. I do like Gasol a lot. Drummond's interesting. 8K on FanDuel, 77 on DraftKings. If Horford plays, I don't think I want Drummond, just because I think Drummond's going to actually struggle. Because Horford's a pretty good outside shooter. He's a pretty good three-point shooter. So if Horford plays, I think Drummond is going to get worn trying to keep up with Horford, chasing him all over the court and making him play in areas he's not comfortable playing, keeping him at the top of the key so he can't get those rebounds. So if Horford is out, yeah, I love Drummond. I think Drummond's great. If Horford's playing, I don't think I want Drummond here. But, pay attention to the injury news. It's all important. It's all relevant. Whiteside, 8,900 on FanDuel, 75 on DK. I love his price on DK. He's been struggling, but with that price on DK, it's like, come on. Come on. I think he has just as good a chance of putting up the same amount of points as a guy like Wiggins. So why is he almost the same price as Wiggins when his upside is ridiculous? So I think Whiteside's interesting. He's been playing bad. Maybe you don't put him in cash. But in GPPs, you want to take a shot. I don't think anybody's going to be on the guy. Because like I said, I think center's deep enough. And I think people are pissed. Honestly, they're pissed at Whiteside, including myself. We've all taken chances on Whiteside recently thinking he's going to erupt. He just hasn't done it. So I think that Whiteside is interesting for GPPs only, but I definitely think he's in play. Of course, you got Brolo, 7,500 on FanDuel, 65 on DK. Brolo, man, the DraftKings will not raise his price because people aren't playing him. So if you're looking for a guy, and the thing about Brolo, especially, I talked about this last time Miami and Brooklyn played, there's so many guys from the Miami side you can take against Brooklyn. There's really only one guy you feel safe taking against Miami, and that's Brolo. And last time, I think he had 40 FanDuel points in the last game. So I definitely think Burrow's in play. I'm a little concerned about the blowout. I'm concerned they're on the road this time. But Whiteside's not a good defender. As long as Whiteside's not playing, I don't know. Like Burrow, I think he's in a better matchup against Whiteside than against like Willie Reed or any of those guys. But I do like Burrow today. I also like Whiteside. So again, you're gonna have to make that choice. Vooch is okay, but he's on the back end of a back-to-back. I don't like playing big guys on the back end of a back-to-back. Olynyk is 4,100 on FanDuel, 44 on DK. If Horford is out, love Olynyk. Again, same situation. I don't see Drummond getting out there to cover a three-point shooter. Obviously, Drummond's a lot more dominant physically than a guy like Olynyk, so that's why I don't mind Drummond if he's against Olynyk. Not to mention Olynyk is not going to be the only guy playing down. You got like Amir Johnson. Drummond would crush Amir Johnson, in my opinion. That's what I think. I don't know for sure, but I could just see that. But Amir Johnson might not even play, so we'll see. But anyway, that's going to do it for the for the position by position breakdown. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Only 5 games, so it wasn't too long today. Wednesday, WiseTake Live returns. I got to remember to keep saying that. Last time I did the podcast Wednesday, I didn't even talk about it. But WiseTake Live will be back on Wednesdays. We're doing it on Wednesdays until it picks up. If it starts to pick up, if we start getting more people involved, we'll try to maybe bump it up to 2 or 3 days a week or something like that where we do a live show. But in the meantime, we choose Wednesdays because there's typically a monster slate on Wednesdays. That's why we do Wednesdays. But anyway, if you're not a member of WiseTake.com, please sign up. Membership is free. You get access to our free WiseTake NBA projections for DraftKings and FanDuel. You get access to our cheat sheets. Of course, you get access to our forums, which I'm trying to get going. So if you guys want to talk to me, if you have any questions, if you want to ask me questions about tomorrow's pod, hit me up on Twitter tonight. Go to the forums tonight. Ask me, and maybe we can talk about it on tomorrow's pod. So it's not bad. I record these things in the morning as of now. So maybe at some point I might have to do them the night before. But as of now, I'm doing them in the mornings. So you have opportunity. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Again, you can reach me on Twitter at CK_013 or the WiseTake Twitter at Wise_take. Follow us on Instagram, WiseTake, no underscores or anything like that. It's just WiseTake. We try to post some funny memes from time to time that are relevant. And that's going to do it. If you're watching on if you're listening on Podbean, please give us a follow and comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe to us as well. And if you're listening on iTunes, subscribe, comment, rate us, whatever it is. Help us out. If you like what we're doing, if you appreciate what we're doing, we don't claim to be anything we're not, man. We just like to talk about DFS. So if you like listening to DFS, if you like talking about DFS, come talk. That's what we do. I don't claim to be, anything I'm not. I'm wrong too. I think most DFS players are wrong most of the time. It's just you're hoping that you're right when it matters the most in those big tournaments or whatever it is. So anyway, man, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Like I said, you can always reach me. And as always, good luck.
Yeah.